Hey, team players, and welcome back. Today's going to be an awesome day. Two more live drafts, getting ready for the Super Bowl, and just breaking down everywhere where there's advantages in these early ADPs. This episode's going to be two live drafts on Underdog, all of the things you can hit up and learn. And Bob, for doing today's show, where's an area you really want to focus at?
So it's more, I think today I'm looking at trying to build some teams where the situations feel figured out.
Okay, there's not many of that, is there?
Yeah, no, but I mean, there are new coaching staffs all around the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And as those staffs start to form, we can kind of get a good idea about how some of these teams may or may not work.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things, like just as an example, right, is that we've been drafting a couple Trey McBrides, Marvin Harrison, Michael Wilson, et cetera. But we also know that they just hired Nathaniel Hackett as their offensive coordinator. And Nathaniel Hackett
That's the same guy who was Aaron Rodgers' coach, went to Denver, completely destroyed Denver.
Yeah, he had a pretty poor.
And then Rodgers like, "Don't talk about my offense coordinator."
Yeah, he had a pretty poor time.
That's the Nathaniel Hackett we're talking about.
Yeah, he had a pretty poor time there.
Oh man,
so, to me, that's a bit
Harrison's undraftable now.
To me, that's a bit problematic. We also have
problematic.
We have Brian Angelico coming over to the Steelers. He's worked with tight ends. Primarily, he's worked with the tight ends out in Minnesota recently, but he also was a passing game coordinator. That interests me for the sheer fact that I believe he was the passing game coordinator while Kirk Cousins was there, but also while J.J. McCarthy was there. But that also kind of points me in the direction that maybe DK Metcalf is ready to take off and launch.
So there's a couple of things I want to say with that. People are going to say, "Hey, tight end coach, what the hell? He's the lowest totem in the offensive staff." But the reality is McCarthy's the offensive coordinator, so it doesn't really matter who the OC is per se. And the other thing that the Steelers did that was interesting,
right?
They signed 3 offensive line coaches. Now, granted, the one they called the running backs coach, but they signed 3 people who have historical running backs and an offensive system who's also an offensive lineman coach. They are gunning in for the line. And given McCarthy's history, I think I'm going to be double tapping Steelers more than ever.
Well, like I said, I'm buying into DK. I'm also buying into the Steelers run game. Knowing that I think the Steelers running back coach, like I said, was up for consideration with some other jobs.
Yeah, he's a lineman coach last year. So
right.
Hey, let's fire one up here, Bob. Give it a couple seconds here and get one ready.
So we look at some other things to figure out here. Is that the Declan Doyle was hired to be Baltimore's offensive coordinator. Jesse Minter is the head coach, the former defensive coordinator. I could only believe that that they're going to get better offensively. Did you rack it up already?
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, go.
And then while it's getting racked up, let's answer this dynasty question. Just popped in here from Easy B.
Yeah, let's do it. Easy B, Dynasty League. Just traded Kyron and a 28 third for Scadaboo and a 28 second. I like this. And there's a couple reasons why I like this. Now, honestly, we can't say if anything's a win right now. But what we do know is both of these running backs, there is a plan for their usage this year and beyond. When we look at Scadaboo, the only thing that takes you maybe have question marks about Scadaboo is the fact that he's right. And we're doing a little board, Mick. We're doing a little board. There's 9 spaces waiting in the little board, so we're doing a little board,
dude. Unless you're not in here.
Oh, I am in one that's apparently not the one that's in here. So,
Bob, how can we keep doing 1, 2, 3 and having this not work?
I don't know. I'm going to keep this one live though, so don't worry about it.
Right.
So when I look at this question, Easy, I really think that you positioned yourself into a better position than you were before. So while I do think that Kyron is a more stable option in an offense that is proven, I do think that when we look at Harbaugh up in the Giants organization, that there is a very good framework. That it's a very good framework to be in a good position this year for Scadaboo. They want to run the ball more. Scadaboo is very physical. The only thing holding you back is maybe he gets injured. Knowing that these are 28, year 28, in 2028. So we're still 3 years out from this. One of the things to know, and our guy Jamie could probably speak on this a little bit as well, for any of our Dynasty fans out there too, is that when I look at the 2028 draft, there's probably, you can't really say for certain who that stud is going to be.
No.
But what we do know is that the 2027 draft that's going to be coming up next year is filled with a lot of candidates that should be good, particularly from the quarterback position. So what I would do if I were you positioned yourself into a 28 second. What I would start to do, knowing that I have this 28 second, an extra 28 second, is I would start thinking about mid-season, maybe early in the season. How can I trade that 28 second to get into a 27 first or a 27 top of the second? Right. And then it's gonna be real quiet. It will. But I think once you get into your right around where the draft happens, so April 23rd, 24th, 25th, things are going to start to ramp up again. And I would start discussions about that 28 second and see how I can position myself. Family was in here talking about all of the moves that he was making as well. And so there's always a way to position yourself in the better picks. There's always a way to position yourself in the better talent. And you might even be able to package that 28 second and use it for something this year, along with some picks to get into something that you really want. And I think moving from Kyren to Scadaboo isn't a downgrade by any stretch of the imagination. I think that Kyren, like I said, feels more stable in an offensive system that is more stable. But I think that Harbaugh is going to change that. Yeah, I still got 4 people waiting for mine. I don't know what happened on the 1, 2, 3. Joe, you pick number 1.
I have number 1. I got Bijan, baby, and I'm loving it.
So, family, this is the thing, man. Like, leagues are quiet, but you've positioned yourself into something good, and it's going to turn out for you. I like that Bijan pick, Joe.
Yeah.
Like I said, what I want to do in my draft, and I'm still waiting for 4 people, is I want to position myself.
Well, Bob, actually don't, because you if we're going to do a second one, you're
really
at the same time.
All right, so I'll cancel mine. So I just left mine. So when I look at where your draft is, this Bijan pick, I don't want you to double tap another running back. I want you.
I'm not. I'm definitely going 2 receivers.
Solid wide receiver.
I got the
here.
2 lined up that I want. Jalen Royals feels like a misclick right there.
Who?
Royals going at the 2-7.
That was probably supposed to be Rice.
I think it was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And his mistake will be my pleasure.
Yeah. We talked
actually,
a lot.
Hell, Pickens is still on the board. What am I talking about?
So that's one of the things that's interesting about Pickens is that what I was reading yesterday after our drafts and such, when I was just kind of relaxing after the day, I was looking at George Pickens, and they said that there's a possibility that he might get franchised because he's talking he's talking about wanting more money. And we know that Jerry Jones is very persnickety about giving money to guys. And
sure is.
It could be problematic later down the line, but I ultimately think that he ends up on Dallas. But like I was saying about coaching staffs, right, is the whole coaching staff for Tampa Bay hasn't been figured out yet. So it might not be bouncing on Tampa Bay as much as I want to. The Titans are figuring out everything that they need to figure out. I don't know if I like that a lot, but I don't think that it's a bad situation to be in with Saleh and Brian Dable. Dable and Saleh together, and that could be very interesting.
So, Bob, here, just hitting on this build I did here, getting Rice and Collins. I'm going to actually stack all 3 of those picks with their quarterbacks. And the things that I love about it is that the exception of Mahomes, it's really cheap and easy to get Stroud and Penix late.
It is.
So
this is also a team, Joe. Again, they say Penix is going to be the quarterback going into next year.
Yes.
That we have had coaches change that, but I think that he most likely will be. What I would like to do.
The problem is there's not enough to change. There's not enough supply.
Yeah.
And there's just flat out not enough supply for the amount of quarterbacks that are entering the draft. And I know everyone's talking up the rookie class because the Senior Bowl looked great. No, the bottom line is there's at most 3 quarterbacks in the draft. There's at most 2 viable free agents, and there's 8 teams that need a quarterback. So Atlanta is not making themselves the 9th. So they have to go with Penix.
Where I'd be at with your team is I definitely would build this into a Pitts team. So getting Pitts.
We got him. Round. Yeah, I'm targeting Pitts in the 7th.
So my only active trade talks is some combo of a first and a second in Harvey. He wants to pay a 110 and a 208. I'd rather swap one out for 2027, same round, can't pick which one. I think avoiding the 208 is the best bet, 110 and a second in 2027. I agree with that, family. I don't think that there's a chance. And I know that one of the content creators out there in the pool, Davis Maddock, came out with a video the other day talking a little bit more about rookies. And when we look at rookies, there is always a chance that there are only going to be in a given year at maximum maybe 10 to 12 successful rookies.
On offense
that are of offensive skill position players. And even when I say successful, that might mean for a wide receiver like a 500-yard season with like 40 receptions or a 600-yard season with like 60 receptions or something like that.
It's hard to bank on a rookie.
Right. So when we look at it, the odds in the current year that's going to be something to like super invest in. Hey, Jamie, shout out to Jamie there. When we look at the 208, it feels like the talent pool at the 208, you're just shooting darts. And if you're wanting to get into a, I want to build as much as I can into the top, as much as I can to get into the first round or the top of the second round in 2027. But also, like, if I'm in the second round this year and I do have the 208, I'm just kind of loading up at wide receivers in this draft and maybe taking shots on some back end running backs like a Hemby, right? We talked a little bit about the rookie running backs this past week. I'm just going to take a couple shots here and there. I don't know, like, I don't necessarily think that guys, that there are a lot of going to be like super solid producers out of this group in the NFL. But I do think that if you put in the work, right? Like if you're putting in the work and you're able to do things like block, you're going to have opportunities to be on the field. So if you're only a field stretcher, you're probably only going to see the field, like a quarter of the time, if not less.
Unless you evolve your game like someone like Shaheed or JMO did.
So, Mick, the crazy thing is, that draft that we did the other day, that still has not been thrown out yet.
Yeah, they're not throwing these things out.
So that Grant Calcaterra draft, where Grant Calcaterra was drafted like in the 3rd or 4th round, that has not been thrown out yet. That is still
holy shit, that guy took Mahomes early. For a 12-man league to get thrown out, it requires collusion in the other direction, where someone gets 4 people who should go in the 1st or 2nd round. I mean, that's just the way that it is.
So you see a quarterback.
I did not see Mahomes going 3 rounds ahead of ADP.
Well, he took Royals 20 rounds ahead of ADP. So,
this guy lives in Missouri.
It's not. And here's the thing, though, is like Royals, I do think has a pathway to do well in his 2nd year because
I do too.
Andy Reid doesn't. Yeah, Mick, we're going to do a second one because I'm not in this one and I'm really frustrated by that. Family, Walker 6 picks before Bucky now. That is what's been happening in some drafts. Bucky's been falling. And one of the reasons why you might see Bucky falling is that, just the general talk, like I just mentioned, of like like the coaching carousel that's been happening. We look at this and say, all right, like when we look at Tampa Bay as an organization, they've gone through how many offensive coordinators in the last several years? Right now they have Zach Robinson. Is that going to be bad or good for this team? I don't think it's entirely bad by any stretch of the imagination. But I do think that we need to be cognizant of the fact that this change could affect the usage of Bucky, particularly knowing that when we look at like Atlanta, right? So when we look at Zach Robinson and we look at it and we look at his history and where he's previously coached. So he coached for the Rams, then the Falcons. So he was the offensive coordinator just for the Falcons. And we saw that with Atlanta, you have a generational talent in Bijan Robinson. And you had packages that were getting Tyler Algier more play in some games at times at the running back position than Bijan. And you were splitting Bijan out wide more than you were running him in some games. There's probably a fear at this point in time between this grouping of players, like the Halls, the Browns, the Walkers, and the Buckies, is that might happen more, and it could lead to lost opportunities for Bucky, but also could lead to potentially more PPR points for Bucky. So there is some question marks about that. In general, I think people are projecting Kenneth Walker's situation to be better than maybe it might be. I am still not inclined to draft Ken Walker above Bucky, and I'm still not inclined to draft him above Chase Brown or Breece Hall, to be brutally honest with you guys. But there will be times that maybe I will take some of those chances. I just think that the situations are fluid, and some people are nervous about Bucky's overall usage. I don't think he's going to have a problem personally. I think he's going to do very well going into this coming year. And I think we're getting a good value at Bucky in the third round because he's absolutely one of those guys. If he hadn't gotten hurt last year, he would be in a top 10 pick just based upon his usage and how that was working out. When I look at this comment here, family, about the taxi squad having 12 picks, going to see how that goes. The latest pick is 4-3. Yeah, if your taxi's empty and you have just picks, I'm moving and grooving as much as possible. Getting who I want. Yeah, getting the crazy picks. So when I look at this, Jamie, I did a draft just recently. I don't know if it was live on air. It might have been the one I did on Sunday, where Drake May was like in like the first or second round, and they were drafting.
That's not smart.
They were basically drafting a Super Bowl like team, I think, instead of like for a Super Bowl like showdown, until they realized that I think that's not what they should have been doing, and then they switched it up. In this format, I can't understand Judkins before Henderson, and I'm a Judkins lover. The one thing that I
don't get it either. I took that as a major gift. Not gonna lie.
I like Judkins more than Henderson right now. I like both of these running backs right now. Why I like Judkins a smidge more is because of the coach. Monken's coming in. They still are undecided on what the quarterback play is going to be. I do understand the offensive line is pretty putrid, but he still got, in some games, 20-plus carries. Now, the only problem is with Judkins, and this is why I would probably fade Judkins as a fourth rounder a little bit more comfortable in the fifth round, is the fact that we know it's a terrible idea to draft running backs on terrible offenses.
Yes, it is.
So we know this. And there is nothing to tell us that the Browns project to be a better offense than they were last year.
No, there's no reason. They're losing their time. The Browns will be a worse offense.
So,
there's no way around that.
So the pathway to take – you didn't take Kyle Pitts? I thought you were taking Pitts.
Kyle Pitts was sniped.
That's disappointing.
The guy who sniped Mahomes also sniped Pitts.
Quarterback run, man. Quarterback run.
Yeah.
You took Alec Pierce too. That's kind of gross. I would have taken QJ, but
I get that, but I like free agents.
So
agents for established receivers entering their prime contract.
Let me just finish this thought, though, Joe.
For that.
Let me just finish this thought. I do still like Henderson a lot. But I also am not taking a lot of Henderson at that value either because of the situation with Ramondre. We know that given this coaching staff, this offense can be good. It can be very good at times. But we know that this offense probably is its best with Trevion Henderson having the ball in his hands. But we also know that Vrabel just wants to win games and isn't very much into the whole fantasy aspect of things. Why would he be? So if Henderson is not seeing the opportunities, like I know Judkins is going to be on the field, but I know the offense is going to be poor. But the opposite is true for Henderson. I know the offense is going to be good, but I don't know how much Henderson is going to be on the field. So the two of these running backs have similar problems, and it's fair for them to go in this range. I just tend to avoid both of them unless they're like my final option. And then I would kind of take them, but I do still love both of them as players in general. I had a guy had 107, went May, Chase Brown, Diggs, Kincaid, Metcalf, Kittle, Laporta, then that was weird, Jamie. That's
that was weird. I love the answer. That's just weird.
They're dropping Henderson so much due to Stevenson, but Stevenson ain't being overdrafted. No, Stevenson, I think, is like Stevenson in the 7th. I love it. And the projection on Bashal Tutin taking over the starting role, that's not definitely cemented, right? It is just projected that that's going to be there. And I think that I'm more comfortable with like Tutin in the 8th. Like, to be honest, I do think that the Titans will be a little bit better than they were last season. But it's going to take a lot of work to make that happen. But even though that's true, we look at the Titans as an organization and they're trying, right? They're trying to get better here. Saleh, they bring in Dable, and Pollard is a very useful running back, at least for 7 to 8 games out of the season. He still has the capability to go over 100 yards. The only question, the only reason Pollard is this low is, again, the comment that I made earlier about running backs on teams that have bad offenses. And I don't think, projectably speaking, that the Titans are going to be any worse than the Browns. And I think that Tony Pollard at 8'11 is criminally low in comparison to Judkins at the 4'11. Because they're going to get similar-ish opportunities, and you're getting 4 rounds of value in it. Just saying. In Dynasty, which running backs after Ken Walker in this draft would you trade for in a heartbeat? So I would trade for Scadaboo. I know Joe wouldn't. That's fair. I also like Blake Corum. Again, it's not because it's because he's cheap right now. Because Kyren is still there, I think you can get Corum still at a discount, and they still have plans for Corum, and I think they're going to fit him into the plans a little bit more. I'm absolutely interested in buying Kyle Monangai, but he's going to come at a higher cost. When I look at it, I'm always interested, this last year, I'm always interested in buying Bijan, but he's not affordable in Dynasty. So like if we're looking in that round, I am also buying Brees. If they're selling Brees, I'm buying Brees. And like out of that round of players,
dude, you just said you don't want running backs on shit teams,
but we don't know where Brees is going to land.
He's going to stay in the Jets. They're going to franchise him.
They might.
Jets do whatever you hate the most, Bob. That's how they roll.
But there is a very strong likelihood that if say the Chiefs don't take a running back in the draft and they finally want to spend some money and he goes to the Chiefs, like, come on, give me that. Give me that
Marcus Golden.
Any chance you guys do a little more Dynasty content this offseason?
We'll do Dynasty anytime you throw a question at us.
Yeah, not a full show, but if Jamie or you if we wanna talk together and go live with some opinions and thoughts, we'd be more than open for that. So when we think about Dynasty, it's always we've got our minds set on best ball right now. And so, getting our minds redirected on Dynasty, it's always would be good. So if
any questions you guys throw at us, we'll answer Dynasty questions. We'll answer any of the football questions.
To get an episode in about that. Shedeur is a Pro Bowler. WFN, He also threw 3 interceptions in a flag football game.
Yep, which is embarrassing.
I've got Shadur. You know it. You saw my drafts. I do have some Shadur. But Pro Bowler Shadur threw 3 interceptions in a flag football game. And the funniest comment I was reading on Reddit was that they go, and he didn't have any pressure on him either, so he shouldn't have been worried about a sack. So why is he throwing interceptions? It's just funny. I think it's funny. The Titans wide receivers aren't sexy, but if Ward kicks it up a gear, Alec and DK could both be great. I agree with that, family, and I also think that they go for somebody in the draft or they go for a free agent. They need.
I think they're going defense and line.
They need some
time.
No. I'm saying they go for a wide receiver in the draft, but not in the first round. They're gonna.
Well, everyone does that.
They're gonna replenish.
You come out of a draft and not having a receiver in the first round.
There's enough.
You did something criminally wrong for your franchise.
There's enough out there that would work. There's enough out there that would work. I want to see Rachaad White to the Chiefs, Jamie said. Family goes, Chiefs will get Dowdle. Hey, if the Chiefs get Dowdle or the Chiefs get Rachaad White, I think that Dowdle works better for them because Rachaad White is not an efficient running back.
Frankly, I don't think they're going to do either until the Friday morning of the draft.
That's possible.
I think their entire world is hoping the Saints don't take Love.
Yeah, and Jamie's part of the Fantasy Six Pack, does a Dynasty show as well. So, family, hit up Jamie's podcast at tonight. He runs a good show. Good show. WFN Chiefs will resign Hunt, Pacheco, Christian Okoye. I think they re-sign some of these guys, but my problem is, in general, their usage throughout the year, right? Is that Hunt primarily felt like he was getting those money carries in the red zone when they got there. Pacheco wasn't really doing much. Now they have Brashard Smith, and Brashard Smith projects in a role next year that might be that change of pace kind of thing, pass catching kind of guy, because he was a former wide receiver for SMU. But when I look at this in general, I think that it would make sense to me looking at them organizationally and saying, okay, we should probably continue to invest in the offensive line like all organizations should do. We should always invest in the defensive line like all organizations should do. And in free agency or the draft, we need to get we always need cornerbacks. So get some more cornerbacks on your roster. And then with one of those picks or in free agency you don't even have to make a splashy splash like the Brees, but going out there and getting a guy like Rico Dowdle who can get you explosive plays. Because right now, Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt cannot explode for your team. So even if you sign them, even if you like Kareem Hunt, even if you like Isaiah Pacheco, they are proving not to be explosive for this organization. So when I look at it and I say, is that the pathway to continue to win in the modern day NFL? No. You need playmakers. And particularly speaking, if Rashee Rice is out for an extended period of time due to his court hearings, your playmakers are Xavier Worthy, you have Jalen Royals, Juju, Hollywood are probably not coming back. Then you have, I think they still have Justin Watson, maybe, Pacheco, Hunt, an old-ass Kelsey, and Noah Gray. So when I look at it and I say, where's the playmakers at? They need to go out and get a playmaker. This is a team that I think Alec Pierce could do well on. This is a team that Romeo Doubs could do good on, right? Will they make those moves? Probably not, right? But when I look at it and I say there's a pathway to be successful there for a running back that goes there in free agency, I think that it's worth thinking of. I picked up Flacco in a few. Dude just wants to keep playing. I think Flacco in Superflex is like a cheap buy for me right now. I would definitely buy into Flacco. He's going to play a few games this year for somebody. Maybe it's the Jets, but it's going to be for somebody, right, Joe?
Hey, Bob, I took someone on my last pick that we haven't talked about yet. What do you think about Connor?
I don't think he's worth it.
Do you think he play? Do you think he returns to being a starter? Let's start with that question.
The pathway is there that he could be the starter next year, but he's 30 years old. We've already seen
in the 13th round.
We've already seen a drop off in his production, okay, because of the injury, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to 2024, like if we just go and look at his general stats, and I'm just on Pro Football Reference right now. We're going to take a look at it. So in 2024, he had 1,000 yards, eight touchdowns. 2023, 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns. But he's not. Again, I agree with you that he's one of those guys that if the Cardinals decide that they're going to run it, he will be used in the red zone, probably a little bit more because of his age. And he will be kind of like that hammer, right? Mm-hmm. Where Kyler's not going to be stealing carries. They're probably going to, if they decide, I don't know what Amari DiMercado's contract or Trey Benson's look like right now. They're going to want to see more out of Trey Benson with the injuries and stuff, but maybe Trey Benson can't stay healthy. Trey Benson feels like it could be a little bit more of their future. Same with DiMercado. But as an organization, their running back room is very much in flux, and they might want to start looking in a different direction. I don't think that it's like, I'm not going to be drafting a lot of James Conner. Do I think he's worth it in the round that you took him? Sure. But also, I'm not going to be doing that much.
I was just surprised he was there to be my 5th back.
Yeah. And Dowdle has a chip on his shoulder. He's absolutely one of those guys to target in the middle rounds. I think he's a guy that I'd trade like low end dynasty, like see what I can get for him. Because I think he is going to have a role in the NFL. And yeah, he might just be a flash in the pan, but the guy had 2 straight games of like 200 yards. I mean, that's impressive. That's impressive for anybody. Again, Peyton Hillis had crazy games too and never did anything else in the NFL again. But when you look at a guy like Rico Dowdle, Joe, he had basically the full-time role for Dallas last year. They decided to move off of him.
Mm-hmm.
Then he has the full-time role for a couple of weeks for Carolina. And how I just said that about James Conner, for example, we look at it and we say, okay, where is his stats? Rico Dowdle, over the last couple of years, we have in 2024, 1,079 yards. Last year, 1,076 yards on 236 carries and 235 carries. Played 16 games in 2024, 15 games started. Played 17 games in 2025, 11 games started. This is a guy to look out for in drafts. I'm telling you, this is a guy that's slept on because we want to talk about rookies. Where Rico Dowdle is being drafted is fair, and I do think that his value goes up depending on what team he lands on. If he ends up being, and I'm, again, just speculating, right? If he ends up being a Kansas City Chief, he will be valued almost very much the same as Isaiah Pacheco was a couple years ago. Because being with Patrick Mahomes means something for us as a fantasy community, I guess. Rachaad White is great as you can sneak him in and as the last man in the big trade, even though he's your true target. I always love guys like that, right? The Rico Dowdles, the Rachaad Whites of the world, even if the Woody Marks is right. And you're just like, or the Romeo Dobbs and be like, oh yeah, like I want to get Lamar and this guy and this guy. Can you just like throw in Rachaad White? Even though that's like actually who you wanted. Like I'm all about that life. I'm absolutely trying to get Worthy for cheap too. If I'm in Dynasty or a keeper league, I think Worthy's set up for a good year. When we look at Worthy's stats, he's still not the guy that we want him to be. But if I'm thinking about like a 3rd or 4th wide receiver, he's absolutely who that is, right? I think that he needs to be in the game plan more because last year he wasn't in the game plan as much as he needed to be super fantasy relevant. Connor is the 2025 Nick Chubb. Interesting thought. Mixon two rounds later.
The difference is he actually isn't coming off the worst injury you've ever seen in your life.
So this, I agree with this family. I agree with this comment. Is that when I look at this and I see Mixon 2 rounds later than Connor, it feels like the same buy at a cheaper price. So, like, if I'm in that draft and I'm thinking, oh, I want James Conner, I would probably rather have Pat Bryant, or I'd probably rather have or take the chance on DK or like any of those wide receivers there, or Rashad White.
Hey, I want to point this out here.
Like that.
To go side note, Coleman in the 17th round is an absolute risk I'm willing to take all day. I just like Horton more.
You know,
Coleman post the 15th round, I think, is a very good value.
I think
it out there.
I think there's
he's huge.
I think there's a lot of chances that that is worth taking. I also, one guy I'd like to point out to people. I
also think Golden's going to blow up too.
One thing that I'd like to point out to people that I think is interesting is the whole, and he's a guy that I've been going after, is Braylon Allen. But the projectability, I mean, we don't know yet if Braylon Allen is going to be the next guy. We assume it because of his age that he's going to be the next guy up. But if I'm in the 20th round and I'm taking chances, we talked about taking chances on rookies in the 20th round, et cetera, and not taking chances on running backs that are on bad teams. But I am very curious by a guy like Isaiah Davis. Like, he got a touchdown last year, got like 43 carries in a game against Jacksonville. He went 9 for 58 in the touchdown. Against the Bengals, terrible run defense, went 7 for 65. I'm just curious about when I see stats like that and I see usage in that way. And also, he can catch the ball because in the game versus the Saints, he got 4 catches, 4 targets for 52 yards. Against the Bengals, 5 catches, 5 targets, 44 yards. If I'm aiming for a guy in the last rounds, I want to find a guy who is going to be able to catch the ball. And I'm not entirely sure that Braylon Allen is that guy. We're all assuming that he can be, but I think that maybe I might be pumping the brakes a little bit more on Braylon Allen than I was before. If you get what I'm saying, he doesn't seem to offer anything in the receiving game necessarily. 2024, he had 19 catches for 148 yards, 92 carries for 334 yards. So obviously if they get to the red zone, they're going to hammer him. But on a team like the Jets, who might struggle to move the ball, guys like Breece Hall are still valuable because they offer pass catching upside. You know what I'm saying? And like, that's like also where like a guy like Trevion Henderson, you kind of like that a little bit too. It's also why like maybe people love Spears a little bit more than Tony Pollard, because you don't necessarily want 18 carries for 60 yards. That's 6 points. That sucks. You want to have that little extra juice to get you to the next level. I love this. I love this comment. Joe's busy searching for the most obscure, funny guy he can draft at the 2012. Draft Davis.
I like drafting people to piss Bob off. I'm not going to lie.
But yeah, Nick, we're going to hop in. Whenever this draft is over, because Joe's the last pick, we're going to hop into another one. But we'll let you know. I love the Njoku pick. I love the Torrey Horton pick.
I have a list of 5 right now, guys, by the way. I'm pretty sure one of them will come to me. I probably will have a choice of all 5 of them.
Trey Tucker, Deshaun Vele, Torrey Horton, all targets that I have. I like the potential that Darnell Mooney could come back. I do still like Mason Taylor, guys. I know what I said about the Jets organization in general, but I do love Mason Taylor just because when you look at what he can do on the field, and again, he got hurt. He played in 13 games, started 11. He had 65 targets and 44 receptions. Okay. When I look at that for a tight end, that's well within what I'm expecting out of guys like that. And it has the chance to increase. So let's say that he has the potential to get 60 or 70 targets, 80 targets if they have a better quarterback. And if they have a better quarterback than Justin Fields, those targets will be probably a little bit better. So I'm willing to invest in guys like Mason Taylor in these last few rounds if I'm looking for a second or third tight end and rolling the dice and seeing what happens. So family, I can tell you right now why Muth. Couple things. Number one, we talked about it at the top of the show. The Steelers went after Angeliki, the tight end and passing game coordinator for the Vikings. We also know Mike McCarthy, is probably not going to bring back Jonnu. And we know that
definitely not bringing back Jonnu.
We know that Hayward and Washington, while a part of the Steelers' plans and organization, are maybe not as proficient.
They're not
as Muth is. Muth, as an organization, I met Pat Fryermuth this year, and I asked him. I said to him, I was like, "Oh, how you feeling?" Because he was coming off being injured, whatever. And I was like, "What's the locker room like with Aaron Rodgers?" And he goes, "Oh man, we love it." So like, Muth is a player's player, and they are going. I'm projecting that they use him better than he was used last year. And just as an example of what I mean by that, we go back and like we said, almost everybody had a great game against the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, he destroys the Bengals.
But Pat Fryermuth had an incredible game.
He always destroys the Bengals, especially in Cincinnati. I don't know why.
But again, he's a guy that when you give him targets, he will be able to do something with them.
Bob, I can definitively say this is my favorite draft I've done in this.
And Sinnott, so Bates and Zach Ertz are both up for contracts this year. Sinnott is theoretically the only player in that room, but Sinnott hasn't proven anything in the 2 years that he's been with the Washington Commanders organization. There is a very real possibility that they've already made the decision to move off of Sinnott, and they may go after another tight end like a Njoku. And then all of a sudden Sinnott's back to being second fiddle again. And I'm not willing to risk one of my last round picks like that to not, like, if I'm going to risk my last pick like that, I want at least a running back or a wide receiver, not a tight end that's proven nothing.
So family, we're going to be doing a little, Mick. Here's my answer, family, overall, is that
we're going to be doing a little board.
I view the last rounds as, for this draft in particular, I needed a floor at tight end because I took Kittle as my main guy. I know Moose is going to be on the field every play. So that gives me a floor at tight end, and I think Njoku will be as a free agent. The rest of the bottom of the ones, I wanted people that can be a 3-catch touchdown guy, which Brashard Smith can be. If they don't get another running back, that guy's electric fast. Luke McCaffrey, I didn't really want. I wanted Leggett, to be honest. And the reason I love Leggett is he's their first round pick. They're going to force.
So I just want to speak.
And I love Horton. So
family, I just want to also speak.
So Bob, let me know when you're ready.
Before we rack up the next little board here, I just want to speak on Ingram for a moment. Ingram is 31. And in the last 2 seasons, he has 97 catches for around 800 yards and 2 touchdowns across. He's started 10 or 11 games.
In the last 2 years. That's not good.
He was supposed to be the projected starter for Denver. He was hurt a lot last year. Only started 2 games this year, but he played in 16 games this year. It seems that from what we saw out of this sample size, that there just isn't the same meat on the bone for Denver as there was in Jacksonville for a 31-year-old tight end like this. So I don't think it's a bad idea to maybe project that Evan Ingram can do better next year, but I'm absolutely more interested in a guy like
All right, Bob, give me the countdown for click and enter.
All right, let me click it up. All right, so I'm clicking enter in 3, 2, 1, go time.
I got 4 more to start.
I have 4 more to start as well. We're in a little board, guys. Little board.
All right.
Finding the next RJ Harvey types is the move for these drafts before combine starts. That's the thing, King. You spoke. You said that you came in 9th this past year, and I think that that's a fact. I would rather shoot shots at running backs in those later rounds than shooting shots at back end tight ends like Sinnott. So that's where I'm at.
Where are
Corey
you at?
agrees
You're
with family about
all right, the opposite ends of the board. It looks like Mick's here at 9. Any of you other guys in here today?
I don't know. But yeah, with Arthur Smith, going back to the minor leagues for Ohio State, WFN, I do think that Freiermuth is being released. And Freiermuth, and this is the thing about a guy like Freiermuth. Like I said,
no, I don't think it's Arthur Smith. I think it's Tomlin, to be totally blunt. I think it was Tomlin.
I'm not disagreeing with you that Sinnott's ADP is low because is low, but I'm also not fully into the fact that Sinnott will actually be the starting tight end. You guys know we do like Sinnott. Oh man, you're 2 and I'm 11. That sucks.
Yeah, we're on the opposite. Are any of the other guys in here just to confirm that?
Yeah, Mick's number 9. Mick's number 9. But looking at it and saying this ADP on Sinnott is truly something to pay attention to. Yes, I agree with that. But again, hasn't proven anything. We know he has had chances to be on the field. But what I also know is that in the last 5 years that Muth has been a Steeler, he has 22 touchdowns. So it's definitely within his purview to catch touchdowns. And if they allow him to do that, I'm really all about that life. He definitely needs to step it up, Corey, because if Sinnott's not, if they go out and get like an Njoku type guy and they say, okay, Sinnott, like,
they're getting Njoku's Sinnott career's over. They will tell you in this offseason how they truly feel about Sinnott. So we're going to play doing the big ball or the big boards, the big money ones. We'll know on Sinnott when those get released in May, 100%, because they'll tell us. Explicitly through their actions.
Truthfully, they
just
will.
Like we're going to find out the Steelers believe in Caleb Johnson or not. If Gainwell comes back, you might as well not care about Johnson. If Gainwell gets to flutter to other seas, well, start penciling in Johnson.
Yeah. No, I mean like that, or even someone else. But the thing about Sinnott is like, even though they had all these opportunities to, we're going to go, who do we want here? I'm going to take Neighbors. Even though he's had plenty of opportunities to be on the field, they still played Bates. They still played Ertz. And it could be the blocking that's a problem. It could be many things that are the problems for him. But in 2 seasons, he's had a total of 18 targets. Personally, that's not much to get excited about, in my world here. All right. We're going to go with a guy that could be a top 5 running back or could get hurt half the year, and a wide receiver who's already hurt. But could be a top 5 guy.
Go for the Gusto, baby. I love it.
Go for the Gusto. I was going to take HN at the 11, and I didn't get him on the comeback, which was interesting. I thought really hard about Brock Bowers and everything that I said last on Monday. But in this scenario, I do think I wanted to lock in that a number 1 wide receiver. I almost doubled. If Jefferson would have been there, I would have went Malik and Jefferson. So wasn't sure how that was going to shake down, and it shook down very differently. Family, would you use Parkinson, Schultz, or Hunter to get your boy? I have no shares in him. I I like all three of those. I love all four of those tight ends, to be honest with you. I've talked about all those tight ends probably ad nauseum over the course of the year. I think Dalton Schultz, again, is an integral part of the offense for Houston. The problem is, what is that offense going to look like going into next year? I think the best one of that bunch is Parkinson. So to be honest, if I'm moving one of those tight ends to get into Pat Freiermuth, because I see a better pathway for more work, then I would probably move Dalton Schultz. But Dalton Schultz was the model of consistency this year, guys. You remember us talking about this a lot if you've been in the streams earlier. It's just that Dalton Schultz game-by-game log for a tight end was tremendous.
This guy in the 3-0's got a good team.
He was getting 6, 7, 5 targets. And what you want to see out of a tight end is a tight end that's getting targets. That's it. That's what I want.
That's all you want.
If a tight end's not able to get targets, I don't want him. And that's why I think all Colby Parkinson, Hunter Henry, all those guys, well worth it. So here you see Joe taking Bucky early, so that means Ken Walker's sliding. There goes Ted at 6. I don't mind that pick. London falling all the way to the 2-9. We talked about the London, Pickens, Collins kind of gateway there. It's an interesting one to have and to be in. So we're 2 picks away from where I'm at. And we're going to probably go here. Probably step that up. All right. We are going to take Garrett Wilson. Reason I'm taking Garrett Wilson is that I am projecting that Justin Fields is not the starting quarterback. I also am projecting that they take a guy that can actually throw the ball. Whether that's a Flacco or a Jacoby Brissett, I am investing in that. And I'm going to leave myself open to criticism here with my next pick. So just be ready for it.
As long as you're open to it.
Are you ready?
That's fine.
I took Devonta Smith there. I didn't have yet any shares in Devonta Smith. The construction of this draft is, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that A.J. Brown is not coming back to that team next year. And there is a great...
It's a very good argument.
There's a great opportunity that Dallas Goedert will not be with the team next year. So while I do think that Jalen Hurts is not the best quarterback for
Jalen Hurts isn't back on that roster.
For pass catchers, I do think that Devonta Smith has the opportunity to be the de facto wide receiver 1 for this team. So yes, I love Parkinson, and I probably wouldn't move Parkinson. I'd probably move Schultz, but Schultz is a big part of their game plan. The Bucky Walker positions is interesting to watch each draft. They're so fluctuating, right? And the backs that are in between them.
You guys know I love Bucky.
The Brees and the Brees Hall and the Jacobs is crazy. Yeah. So I also think that AJ Brown is going to land on a team that's going to use him a lot. I almost did both of them. But I think that Garrett Wilson.
I did the wrong order. That was retarded. I should have taken the back second. He already has 2 backs.
No, that doesn't mean that he wasn't going to take them. So don't get nervous about that.
50-50. I just want my guy to come back to me.
Who's your guy?
I want Waddle.
I don't disagree with that. There's a likelihood that
I got him. All right, good.
Mike Evans. Okay. All right. That's fair. I think that Waddle's going to have a tremendous year too this year. It just depends on what the quarterback situation looks like.
This isn't the worst start. I think the guy who's drafting now has the best start in the draft right now.
Who? Oh, Gary.
Yeah, well, I love that 3 start. I don't love Loveland that high.
I disagree with Loveland.
It might fall apart on him, but that's a solid 3 receiver.
I would have probably taken Lamar there.
instead of Loveland.
Probably. I mean, wow, look at how much Brian Thomas Jr.'s climbed up. Holy cow.
I don't agree with that at all.
Holy cow.
I mean, I get that he was a first rounder last year, but there was a lot of disappointment on that bone.
A lot. Like, majorly a lot. So it's like, what are you going to do there?
Gonna be disappointed.
I've got a decision to make here, Joe, and I really don't know how I feel about my decision.
That's a sign that bad decision's about to happen. That's like your code words. Everyone perk up. Bob said he's had a decision. That's sure I'll do it. It's gonna suck.
I'd really like to get another running back.
All right.
But there's none that I want right now.
Then you're gonna make a very bad decision because I know you.
Well, the decision that I have on the table here is this. I have 2 wide receivers. I know who their quarterbacks are going to be. Do I take both or do I take one?
What's wrong with? There's nothing wrong with Sutton. That's not a running back, but
I didn't take Sutton.
Oh, the guy before you took Sutton. My bad.
I'm taking DK because I'm gonna.
I like DK. Adam Kudo for he was my fallback if Waddle got taken. Dude, there's being in the McCarthy offense is gonna get you points. His number 1 dog always eats.
Yeah. What I was going to do was I was going to take Dart and Hurts. But
I don't know about that.
DK is the better move. I also went with Hurts there at the turn. A little bit early on Hurts, but I don't think Hurts would have made it back to me with all those picks. I seriously don't. Family offering Schultz.
I think this round is dead territory for wide receivers.
I like that, family. I like taking the chance on Muth because Schultz does Schultz has a diminishing returns. He's gonna be very consistent in PPR teams. He's probably gonna have, like I said, 6 to 5 targets every single game. Probably not a big touchdown guy. I think Muth has more touchdown potential in a McCarthy-led offense. So I like that trade. I would probably do something like that. Yeah, I mean, like this Tay has 1 wide receiver, 4 running backs this early. Not about that life. There you go. Another drafter, Steph here, taking the Jaden Daniels, Terry McLaurin experience. I don't disagree with it. It's so easy to do. There goes Drake May at the 6'9" to ZD. I like the positioning of that, but I feel like I probably wouldn't have done that there. I would have waited until the 7th. Joe going Marv, cement your 4th wide receiver in that rotation. I love it.
Yeah, Marv is a 4. I mean, I do believe in taking guys who are first-round talents.
Mm-hmm. I actually love this team for you, Joe. I mean, it's a phenomenal team you've got built so far from a structural standpoint and a player standpoint. You have Jamar, who's capable of putting up.
I love Jamar.
Yeah, you do.
Oh, Jamar Chase. Sorry, I heard Lamar when you said Jamar. My bad.
You have Jamar.
Of course, I got Chase. I love Chase.
I think Chase is the guy I want from all of these players. Like, he's the guy I'm most excited about this year, which means he's probably going to fall flat on his face. But
no, that's not true.
You know.
But right, yeah, of course I got Jamar Chase. Yes, indeedy.
Up that, and then hopefully that's there for us. And then play the room a little bit more.
I wanted Burrow. Didn't come to pass.
It's really hard to stack Jamar, T, and Burrow in this because if you don't take both Jamar and T, you don't realistically have a chance at Burrow. But if you take both of them, you logistically aren't getting them unless you take Burrow around early because everybody knows it. You are just telegraphing. You're just telegraphing who you want in that scenario.
I mean, and you see here, we're very effective for 100 years, Bob.
You see here that Alec Pierce has fallen from his original ADP, which I love, right? Alec Pierce at 7.8 makes much more sense. So I'm going to do it. I think that's fine. 7th round. You get what you get. You don't be upset. Get a little stacky doodah in there. Probably going to open the door to Theo Johnson a little bit more. I think now that I have that. Passed on Pitts. I'm okay with that for the moment. I do want to load up. This team is probably going to have a couple rookie running backs on it. Not too many, though. All right. We're going to move into Tony Pollard. I told you I was going to do that on this stream. The coaching staff is cemented. We know who's going to be the coaches. We know probably what this offense is going to look like. Knowing, we know Harbaugh, Joe. We know Harbaugh with Dart. We know if Neighbors is healthy, that's going to look really nice.
Should.
We know Jalen Hurts can be successful. I mean, I like the way this team is shaking up. I'm going to probably shoot a couple fish in a barrel and get some running backs soon. But our team structurally, when we think about it from a structural perspective, you're over here at 0.241 and I'm at 2.240. So, are your running backs theoretically better than mine? Maybe. But I think there's just as much risk with Trevion as there is with a guy like Tony Pollard. So, I mean, your wide receiver room built up super strong. Mine as well, super strong. We look at Mick's team. Mick's got Amon-Ra and Carnell Tate. Love Carnell Tate. I have a hard time getting to him a lot, but I'm willing to take chances on him. 3 running backs loaded in with Walker, ETN, Jalen Warren. Jalen Warren keeps going higher and higher, Joe. I absolutely love Jalen Warren this year. He is projectably the better the better running back to be there. Going with the Jordan Love, Tucker Kraft. I assume you're going to be going to Matthew Golden a little bit later.
I love him.
Mm-hmm. Getting Xavier Worthy, I think, is nice on the back end there.
Well, Worthy, Worthy has all that upside potential. And again, you guys know I like the pedigree guys. Even if they had a down year, if they're young enough, they can force their way. It just what GMs need them to succeed.
Yeah.
That's the the truth of it.
It's a fact. I mean, it's a truth. It's a fact. It's what you want. You have to be successful in the modern NFL here.
You can't be blowing picks.
You don't have time. You don't have time to suck is the problem.
That's a nice way of putting it.
Let's be honest, right? I mean, we're all honest people here. You don't have time to suck. And you see it. Most teams have what? Like 3-year windows.
Yeah.
So it's like, what do you do? What do you do with that? Who knows? Nickel taking Rico from me. Don't like that. All right, we're gonna pop a rookie cherry here. Take Jadarian Price.
Ooh.
Told you I was gonna take a rookie there. Now we got a big question mark here. Do we want, assuming still on the board, Juwan Jennings, Jordan Addison, Kincaid was on my list. No, I don't have that yet, and that's fine. All right, we're going to take... we'll take Juwan. I was contemplating Tyler Algier. I was contemplating Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison always is in trouble, though. What is that kid doing? I have no idea what he's doing. It's so crazy. OTR. I kind of agree with that. One of the things that I'm curious about, I almost bought Wandale there, but I'm not entirely sure what the plan for Wandale is this year. He's a free agent. do we think that he signs back again with the Giants? I don't know. The Giants could easily bring in another wide receiver that maybe might not ask for as much money. So his situation, I think his situation is a product of the system more so than it is a product of how good he actually is. So I do have a problem with Wandale because of how much he was used in low A dot situations, right? Is that he's like a different animal than a Jordan Addison, right? Is that Jordan Addison is one of those guys that could really go off, and Wandale's going to go off because he's getting, like 10, 11 catches. Now, that's great. I want my player to get 10, 11 catches. Like, that's what I want. But I don't know if he ends up on another team, what that necessarily is going to look like. Because he has an absolute chance to explode. 2 years in a row, he had 92 and 93 receptions. Not a big touchdown guy, though. So he's a guy that I wanted Tracy. Damn it.
I wanted him too.
I thought Tracy might sneak his way back. That's why I took Juwan.
That definitely was not happening.
I know you. I should have taken him there. I should have. But when you look at everything that can happen, it's not necessarily the truth of the situation is that he's going to be the guy that's going to be the big thing on the next team, because it seems like it's just a product of the system. Truly hope the Bills get Boston. They will trade back and take a wide receiver project and led to go in the third. I agree with that. I do think that they're going to take a rookie wide receiver because Coleman didn't work out, and they're going to want to try to like make up the juice on that side. The question is, who do they get? Do they try to tackle Concepcion? Do they try to get Elijah Surratt? Do they get Boston? I mean, there's a lot of wide receivers that they could go out and get. And like Joe said, like he believes that there's a chance that they go out and get Romeo Doubs.
I think they do.
And that would really change some things for them. So, there's a framework here. There's a lot of free agents and rookies and such that are on the table to be available. I wanted Ferguson. Damn it. So there are some questions there on what actually will transpire. Debo's also a free agent. Will they go after a guy like Debo? Who knows? Debo, while he was injured a lot last year, he had some good games here and there. Will he go back to having good games? It's tough to tell. He had games where he had 10, 11 receptions. And so is it worth taking a chance on him, or is it worth taking a chance on somebody who's a little bit younger, All right. This is a team. I got 3 rookie running backs. My rookie bus has ended. I get no more rookies on this team.
Oh, rookies.
You
got 3 of them.
I got 3 rookie running backs to go with.
I got to say, the rookie running backs hurt me so badly last year. I am jaded.
I feel bad. I feel real rough. I do think that Wandale is a great fit for the Commanders. I do think that. I don't know if they pay him though. I just think Worthy, OTR said, is wish casting in the 8th. I'm open to being wrong. Yeah, no, like Worthy, the veritable difference between the value of Xavier Worthy in the 8th, the value of Shakir in the 9th, the value of Godwin in the 10th, and the value of Wandale in the 10th they all have very similar-ish values.
Well, they all have big variances, but Worthy's the only one who can blow out a week.
Pending what it really looks like in, whichever wide receiver Bills take will be a hot pick in Dynasty. Absolutely. 1,000%.
That's why I'm getting on Dobbs now as I can.
So just thinking through that, there's a couple players that I'm adding to my list right now. I know that, like I picked Katron Allen there a little bit, a bit ahead of the ADP. He's more of the bruiser style running back, not necessarily a whole pass catcher, but again, in a two running back system that Penn State was running, did he have to catch the ball too much? Those are questions that we have to ask ourselves, right? Did he need to catch the ball? So that's always a question mark for stuff like that for me. I am probably going to position myself in a couple more running backs soon. I want to pick up just a couple low end guys later, I think. I see Najee popping up in ADP now. I'm not sure I jive with that.
Oh, I know you don't jive with that.
I'm not like, I think that's a little crazy.
But maybe crazy with me.
Damn it, Nickel. That's 2 times in a row. Damn it.
Like he watches the show or something.
I don't know. Maybe.
You got tells, bro.
All right, so we'll go there with that pick. All right. Little wish casting for myself as well. Take downs. And like I said, there's situations where downs could be very successful. Can he break out of the shadow of, Jonathan Taylor 200-yard game? Probably not. Are his targets a little bit mixed up with Tyler Warren's? Yeah. Am I willing to take more shots on that? As a 6 wide receiver? Yeah, sure. Just picked up Theo Johnson there to go with Dart. Not sure entirely. I feel pretty good about Theo Johnson in general. He was hurt. But statistically speaking, he's one of those guys that I think is a good tight end target if you've missed out on the top end of talent. He's a guy that while the receptions are not always on his side, only 45 receptions this year, he's had some games, 66 yards, 75 yards, 77 yards, 72 yards. So he's shown that he can move with the ball. And I do like that. I do like that a lot. Jerry Jeudy. Again, Jerry Jeudy in this round, I have no problem with. He is most likely not going to get more than 3 or 4 touchdowns, but he's probably going to be 1,000-yard guy. So how do you rectify that? You know what I'm saying? Isaac Tesla, I like that too.
I'm going for touchdown bros.
But Tesla's a touchdown bro. Jerry Jeudy's not a touchdown bro. So
that's the difference. You're
Jerry
Jeudy, back half.
Jerry Jeudy could absolutely
outscore Jamar Chase to get in my lineup. They're only doing it with a touchdown.
I'll still tell you what, though. I'm going to say this until I'm blue in the face. And Nickel, if you're out there watching, I think Jalen McMillan is a smash in the 13th round. Absolute Golden Globe, Grammy-winning smash in the 13th round. And he is probably one of the guys that I will have way more of than I should. Way more of.
As long as you know it.
And I don't love that about myself, but I'm willing to admit that. When things go haywire, I'm willing to admit that. All right. So, all right. I know this Tate is probably going to take another tight end. So we'll see how that rules out. Question is, do I wait? I think I can wait. Yeah, I'm going to wait. I'm going to load up, I think, on these 2 guys. We'll balance it out a little bit. There goes Surratt. Mick, we just talked a little bit about Surratt just in passing. I think he's a great player. I think he's worth the pick there. You can see Nicholas Singleton. I talked a little bit about that. Joe Mixon taken there. We're going to do some wish casting with Jonathan Brooks. as running back number 6. I mean, I could have veritably a dead running back room, and that's
totally possible.
How some of these go. And then I am going to take Trey Tucker there. Again, a little bit of an upside kind of guy. This whole team really hinges on the success of Achane, and I don't know how much I like that. I don't know how much I like that. So we've got 4 picks remaining. 2 of these are probably going to be tight ends. We'll see how the tight end room shakes down. And again, it's just showing you the variance, how you can draft. And obviously, I don't feel very comfortable having 3 rookie running backs on my team for everything that I've said to you guys before. I just don't always enjoy that.
I will 2 quarterback build, Bob. I think I'm just rolling with Love and Stroud.
Yeah, that's fair. Mick, I always am able to get Stroud 20 to 30 past ADP, so I'll keep clicking. I think that's the case. I think that when we know, especially in these little boards, the variance is going to be, there's going to be a high level of variance in between whatever this ADP is and what it looks like in Best Ball Mania, just because of the round differential as well, and not being able to roster like 3 or 4 quarterbacks. But I think that there are going to be more people taking chances on guys that later. And if Surratt ends up on a team that needs a wide receiver, he's going to fly up the boards, like absolutely fly up the boards. So I'm okay with something like that. I like Surratt. I like Mitchell. Mitchell could be very successful, and maybe is the case to not take a guy like Garrett Wilson in the 3rd or 4th round. I mean, it's fair. I like Colby Parkinson at the 16-12. He was a guy I had on my list. Dylan Sampson at the 16-8, I think makes a lot of sense. Likely and Njoku I had queued up. I had Brian Robinson queued up too. I think that Brian Robinson in the 17th round, he's going to land in a spot, and I think he'll be very successful wherever he lands. I know that guys like Zachariah Branch are players that a lot of other fantasy podcasts are talking about, and I think that Zachariah Branch is worth a chance. Definitely worth a chance in some of these drafts, depending on how you built your team. So I've got 2 guys lined up here. My whole queue actually is 3 tight ends and 1 wide receiver.
Well, you got 4 picks left. That could be perfect.
I would like to get another running back, a low end kind of guy with upside.
You mean those rookies you took earlier aren't going to be that for you?
Hey, maybe. But we got to fill the stable with randomness.
You do.
Right?
I mean, you could. I just don't think that's recommended.
All right, so we're going to take Torrey Horton there as the 8th wide receiver. I'm very, very comfortable with this wide receiver room. I don't have any issues with that. And then, as projected, we're taking Pat Freiermuth. I mean,
Bob, I like it a lot more when you're not in my drafts.
So you can get the guys you like.
Yeah.
I mean, that's totally fair. I mean, the other thing too is that I think in this draft personally, I waited a bit longer. I would have been more comfortable taking, if Ferguson would have landed on me, I would have loved Ferguson, and then on the turn taken one of the rookies and felt a little bit better about my team. But the only other tight end that I probably would have taken would have been where I got Jackson Dart, taking Kyle Pitts there, but I wanted Dart and Pollard, so I didn't take Pitts there. That's probably going to end up biting me in the end, which is fine. All right. So do we want? No. Oh, yeah. Okay. So we were talking a little bit about, like taking chances on guys. I have a guy queued up that I'm willing to take a chance on. And to be honest with you, like Are my 2 tight ends the best in the world? No. Might they have a bye week the same week? Sure. But am I going to load up on some other guys instead? You know, a guy that I was looking at, Joe, I'm not going to draft him in this draft, but if Godwin and Evans have some question marks attached to them, I'm very curious how Tampa will use Tez Johnson. The guy had 5 touchdowns last year, 44 targets. Clearly they like him in some way. What way will that be? I don't know. I know I drafted Devontae Walker one time. One time's probably enough for me.
One time's enough.
One time is enough. I'm just looking at some of these names that are lower on the list that we know about. You know, your boy Luke McCaffrey, Jalen Royals is on the map. You know, I'm probably not going to take Royals in this draft because I've taken him before. You know, the fall off for a guy like Roshan Johnson. Steph must be here because we were talking Sinnott earlier, and now Sinnott's going.
Yeah.
Did you know Ezekiel Elliott is still in the draft pool?
Why?
That's how far down.
Underdog doesn't delete anyone.
Like they're not like somebody drafted him because he has an ADP. Like
Philip Rivers is not, and he played last year.
Like some of these players have a 239.9 ADP and some have a 240. So the question mark, and then some have no ADPs, which means they're not being drafted. So like Malik Davis was being drafted, rookie tight end, Trevin Wesco, Dylan Gabriel. Like this is Wild West, man. All right. We're going to take Jordan James.
Bob, give me the background on him. I was looking at him, but didn't pull the trigger. He's the speed one, right?
Yeah, so I believe he was a Duck. And when I look at that, I think that, you know, all things considering, when you draft a player like that, and you know how useful that potentially could be. I'm also going to go another running back here, LaQuint Allen. These are guys that, again, flashes in the pan, potentially guys that you want to take a chance on, maybe. Joe does have Brashard Smith crush going on.
I do. I'm not going to lie. I like the speed potential there.
And then Derek Carr to the moon. I mean, like, honestly, I drafted Derek Carr last year with that same assumption. And you'll notice that in this draft, like, I had all, like, Riley Leonard could have been on this team. Jalen Milroe could have been on this team. Grant Nussmeier, Marcus Mariota. This team is a team. It's a 2-8-8-2. I only drafted 2 quarterbacks. I only drafted 2 tight ends. I'm not fully expecting this team to make a huge run. There goes Tez Johnson. Somebody's watching. This guy's watching. Nicola's watching. Has to be watching. Because I was just talking about him. And when I see the chance for certain players to be successful, I like the Noah Gray pick. I think it's a low end kind of could be a super successful pick. When we look at Jordan James,
or nothing play at the end of a roster.
When we look at Jordan James, though, from the perspective of how well do we think he could be, we don't really know yet how good that he actually can be because he didn't get any carries behind Christian McCaffrey. He got one target, but coming out of Oregon, let's take a look here. I just want to see what his rankings were. So his 40-yard dash wasn't exceptionally fast. His vision, maybe not great. He had some injury concerns. And this is from NFL Draft Buzz. Well, not likely to emerge as a bell cow. James brings day one rotational value with potential to develop into a high-end committee or a low-end starter. There's a chance that they don't bring back there's a chance that they don't bring back a guy like Brian Robinson if they think that Christian McCaffrey will continue to stay healthy. James was a pickup after my 6-1 McBride deal. Other side of the lopsided deals is all talent you can refresh your team with for free. Noah Gray, I added 2 after the trade. And I think guys like that, family, I'm absolutely cooked. If HM breaks
you are.
But I fully, but
I think that when you do the autopsy on your roster about why you don't like it, you took 2 quarterbacks for the 7th round, and you never like a team where you do that.
Well, I'm not saying that I fully don't like my team, but what I'm saying is, like, again, showing different things to think about is that did it necessarily need to take both Hurts and Dart? No, but as you build a team, if that's something you decide to do and you decide to take 2 quarterbacks in the 6 through 8 range, the way your team looks is going to be veritably way different than somebody who waits. But what I want to say is, right, is that, like, I'm not fully confident either in a Jalen Hurts is going to return to 30 points fantasy relevance either. The reason I took Hurts here was because I took Devonta Smith. And typically speaking, I'm not pushing Hurts that high. I would rather have a guy like Burrow or Daniels because I know where their points are going to come from. Primarily Burrow's points. I know where Burrow's points are going to come from if he's scoring a lot of points. With Jalen, the question mark is his stack with Devonta Smith or A.J. Brown or whatever isn't as strong as a Burrow Higgins or a Burrow Chase stack because Hurts can absolutely earn the points in another direction, whereas Burrow might not. Same with Dart. Dart kind of works a little bit independently, presumably, than Malik Neighbors, right? And so, like, those 2 guys aren't necessarily a need to stack, but the reason I did that is because in the chance that those players do pop off, right? If Devonta Smith is popping off, that also means that Hurts is having a pretty good game, most likely. And the same thing goes with Dart to Malik Neighbors. But what that leaves you open to is the vulnerability. And I told you guys that I'm not afraid to attack. I'm not afraid to be vulnerable on some of these drafts. Is it then necessitates taking guys that maybe there's some question marks from, right? So, like, I wanted Rico Dowdle. Nickel took him. I decided to go with Jadarian Price, who can be very successful in the NFL at a cheap price for some team who doesn't want to tackle the Breece Halls of the world. When Jawan Jennings was there, I very much thought about Tyler Algier and Tyrone Tracy. And I said, well, maybe I want a wide receiver out of that grouping of wide receivers. I could probably get Tracy a little bit later, but then I forgot Joe was at the turn, and I knew that probably wasn't going to happen after I made that clip, which sucked.
Sorry.
Which then necessitated double dipping on 2 other guys that I think have potential to be successful in the NFL. I don't think by any stretch of the imagination that Emmett Johnson or Katron Allen are very much different than a Zach Charbonnet or a Trey Benson, if you get my drift. The fact is that Zach and Trey have teams have a role. And I have had drafts where I've taken Sharbs and I've taken Benson, and I've been fine with that passing on Johnson and Allen. But what I do believe, and I've said this to you guys before, is I do believe the limit is 3. I believe my personal rookie limit is 3. And you can kind of see that through the rest of my draft. And then the Jonathan Brooks dilemma kicks in. That was going to be Joe Mixon. Jonathan Brooks was there. He was on my list. Smacked him. Trey Tucker. I was between Trey Tucker and Harris. I told you how much I liked Harris before. This was a Trey Tucker team. Coming back around, that Torrey Horton pick was going to be Gunnar Helm, and I was going to skate it back with Pat Freiermuth. Gunnar Helm got taken. We pivot into Horton, who I think could be very successful. And then just coming back around, taking 2 guys whose situations could definitely become a little bit clearer going into this year. You know how I said to you about Bashal Tutin, right? Is that we saw this year out of Bashal, a pretty good sampling of what he can be successful in with this team, right? And so when we take a look at that from that perspective, Bashal Tutin had 83 rush attempts for 307 yards this year, Joe. Okay. He also had 10 receptions for 79 yards. We look at LaQuint Allen, and LaQuint Allen did not play. He wasn't a starter in as many. He didn't start. LaQuint Allen started one game. Bashal Tutin started 0 games, but played in 15. LaQuint Allen played in 17 games, started in one of them, and in his starting role, okay, and this was, again, back half of the season, I believe week 18, or very close to it, right? So you look at across the season, he had on 11-16, so closer to midway through the season, 8 carries for 36 yards. Across the totality of the season, he had 23 carries for 94 yards, 11 targets, 10 receptions for 54 yards. So I'm not quite sure. I do believe that, family. When I took Garrett Wilson instead of pushing Kyron, that was a mistake. I've clicked Kyron a bunch of times, and you guys know I love Kyron. But also Garrett Wilson I feel like Garrett Wilson's going to keep waffling, Joe, between the 3rd and the 4th round, and he might even climb depending on what quarterback goes there. So that's something to kind of keep in mind too, that if for example, if Jacoby Brissett ends up going to the Jets are still the Jets. Don't get that twisted from me. I'm not saying that the Jets are the Jets, okay? But if Jacoby Brissett were to go to the Jets, perception would change about Garrett Wilson. You would see the numbers and say, well, Jacoby Brissett can pass the ball 55 times. That's way different than Justin Fields throwing the ball 15 times. So perception will change, and you can very easily see Garrett Wilson go ahead of Ted or go ahead of Higgins, or even, depending on the perception of Olave and Rice with the concussions and the loss situation, you might even see Garrett Wilson return to the back end of the 2nd, top end of the 3rd round. Whereas Kyron's situation isn't changing, okay? Kyron, I feel like in most drafts, Kyron will always be available to you in the 3rd round, early 4th round. And if you're picking 10, 11, 12, Kyron will be there for you. Typically, it's either going to be Kyron or Breece. One of those two is going to be there for you. And the thing is, Kyron, even if Breece Hall's situation will change, Kyron's situation will be the same, and he will stay there. He's not going any higher than Bucky, Breece, Jacobs, or Walker unless an injury happens to them in the offseason or before the NFL draft. So, like, it's very realistic that you will not be – if the quarterback situation changes in – and I'm not saying I'm going to take Garrett Wilson every time. I'm just saying there is a framework by drafting at this back end here that you might not come 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now in the little board – continue to be able to get Garrett Wilson below Ladd McConkey, below T. Higgins, and below Tet, right? Because, thinking through it, Tet and Garrett Wilson pretty much have similar kind of issues in the quarterback room. They're going to hover around 1,000 yards. They're going to be the alpha on the team. They might not generate as many touchdowns as you want them to, but if they do, if their share goes up, you could see them easily surpassing a guy like Nico. You can see them easily surpassing a guy in the same caliber as Drake London, right? So Kyron, QJ Myers over Pollard, and you'd be perfect. Yeah, I would agree with that, family. I would agree that if I had taken Achane and Kyron, that's what I'm saying. If I would have taken Achane and Kyron, come back with Devonta Smith, go with DK, and then taking QJ or Myers instead of Pollard. Yeah. And you know this from me too, family. I've done that. This is what, out of the 20 little boards, this is my 12th. And there are teams that I have that I do believe that I have with QJ and Myers. On this iteration of the team, I do agree with you. If I had not, I didn't buy Jalen Hurts at that price. I waited for him and I took Jalen Warren instead. And if Jalen Hurts didn't get back to me, I went Jackson Dart. This team would have probably been better too. I personally believe I waited too long for my third running back, but also I'm embracing that in this draft. And by embracing it, going for the gusto. In a world where Achane breaks his leg, this team probably can be cooked. But in that same world, there could be a way that Johnson or Price end up in a good situation. Chiefs, Cardinals, maybe the Jacksonville Jaguars decide to do something like that. Maybe Dallas goes after another rookie. Lots of things. So much variance. And in this draft, like I told you guys at the top of the show, embracing some of that variance, embracing teams that have their coaching staff starting to get a little bit settled in there. And honestly here, like here's the thing. Honestly here, the thing that I'm worried about the most about this team isn't Tony Pollard. It's not the rookies. It's actually Malik Neighbors. That's the big thing that I'm worried about it, because taking Malik Neighbors there, I was going to take J. Jeff there. And I actually had queued up in my queue at the top half of that first and second round, Cook, Achane, Neighbors, and Jefferson. And I decided to click Neighbors because I don't click them often. You look at Joe's team, though, on the opposite side of things. Jamar is head and shoulders above everybody that I have on my team.
No doubt.
But when you look at the other wide receiver situations, Nico, Waddle, Harrison, it's a very familiar context for a Garrett Wilson, Devonta Smith, DK Metcalf. All three of those guys should be alphas on their team. All three of Joe's should be alphas on their team, including Jamar Chase. Where his value lies and where his draft hinges, right? When we say family said Joe cooked here.
I think I did.
Where Joe's draft hinges the most.
It's Bucky.
No, it's the success of Trevion Henderson.
Either way, it's the running backs. Regardless of which way, I'm more confident actually in Henderson than Bucky.
Because if you do look at it in a similar perspective of how I drafted my team, those double-dipped running backs are coming at a different perspective. Because you can see I did the same thing here in round 8 and 9. Right, with Pollard and a rookie. If Trevion Henderson's situation is not great, you have it there. Joe took the early tight end, which I like this Tucker Kraft pick at the 7-2. I believe where his team actually positions itself better than my team is because of Tucker Kraft. That's the one place where I think, because you took pot shots at wide receivers. I like Isaac Tesla. I like Marvin Mims.
I mean, I'm a 2.693. I took so many shots of wide. You could argue that's stupid having Chase on the team, but
no, I would say Chase is needed for that team to work, because Chase.
I'm saying taking 9 receivers if you already have Chase is a redundancy.
You can say that, but I disagree. I disagree that taking Chase is in taking 9 receivers is redundancy. And here's why I say that is that before we go, of course,
I will do a lot of 2.693s in the big boards once I know the buys. I don't normally do it for this one, not knowing the buys. I normally take that third quarterback.
So here's the thing that I want to say about that, Joe, is that yes, there is a high statistical percentage that taking 2 quarterbacks on the same bye week is troublesome.
Yeah, you got to make up that 30 points somewhere.
But
Chase might do it over the course of a season.
The other troublesome aspect of it is that you have a very high likelihood, in addition to that your 3 quarterbacks anyway will all be on the same bye. There is
that's definitely not a high likelihood at all.
There's a chance. I mean,
there's actually
looking at NFL bye weeks last year. I'm
The
saying
most you get is 6 teams on a bye.
I am saying yes. If you get a bye like a week 6 or a week 7 and both of your quarterbacks, and those are the only 2 teams on the bye, that's going to be soul crushing. But looking at the bye weeks last year, there was a likelihood that in the little board, you could have drafted Michael Penix, Caleb Williams, and Jordan Love, and you still wouldn't have had a quarterback that week. Week 8, you have Cardinals, Lions, Jaguars, Raiders, Rams, Seahawks.
Bob, I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying statistically.
I'm not saying that statistically speaking, that the probability difference is varying or as much or as highly varied as you think it is by taking 3 to 2. In a super flex, yes, you need 4.
Oh, no, you mean in terms of the outcome of making it out of this? No, I agree with that. I think taking.
I'm saying, statistically speaking, you have a better. I would say you have a better chance. Not even statistically speaking. I'm just saying. My opinion is you have a better chance of having the same outcome of someone having in a week as someone having 3 quarterbacks as you having 2 and they having 1 less position player. But where you make up that difference at, what I believe in these little boards, and King family, you guys can have me. With your last pick, draft a quarterback in the same division as one of your other 2 because it's even rare. Yeah. So if you're going to do something like that, it's not a full possibility. Like, for example, right? I have just 2 quarterbacks here, but I've drafted them from the same division. The likelihood that they both have a bye the same week is low.
See, I don't see a correlation of buys and divisions. I get what you were saying, but I think that's more of a statistical.
I'm just saying it's
fallacy than
it's
is bad.
Low. But I'm just saying, going back to last year, if we just take last year as a sample,
my point is this, Bob, is that given the fact that the most they put on any
I would
given
rather have the
6.
extra positional player. That's what I'm saying.
I think so too. And I'm just not. My point is I don't think it should have been a receiver. I think it should have been a back because with Jamar Chase,
either way,
you're not getting a starter.
Either way, what you're ultimately hoping for, right? What your best outcome is
Rockey to go off.
What your best outcome is every week is Chase, Nico, and Waddle are your top 3 guys. Bucky and Trevian are your 2 running backs. And your flex is either going to be a high top profile Marv or Worthy with Kraft as your starter, right? What I'm saying to you is that when we look at this from that perspective, and this is something we talked about last year, and as we still go through all these little boards, every year is a learning process. Every year there's something new to learn. Every year the goalposts change.
That's true.
But going into last year, nobody would think that the guy you needed to win week 18 was Marvin Mims. And I'm not saying that it's always going to be Marvin Mims. But what I'm saying is that just because you drafted Chase, your expectation is when you draft Chase, Nico, and Waddle in the top 5 rounds, your expectation is that those 3 guys are the guys that are always going to be the guys in your starting 3 wide receiver position.
Which obviously isn't the case in best ball. There would be a redraft, but it's not necessarily the case in best ball.
But the case I'm making here and to why I disagree with you on why drafting a team with Jamar is especially in the little boards. This is not to say in best ball mania it's different because there's 2 less rounds. But in these little boards with 20 rounds, you have the potential here of having Marvin Mims in your starting lineup, Jamar in your starting lineup, Nico in your starting lineup, and Waddle. Like that last pick is what you really want to pop. And family, I agree with you. I feel QB scores do score so much more. I would take 4 mid to late round quarterbacks to hope 1 guy goes off each week and at most 2 share a bye, but that's the super flex player in me. I don't disagree with you.
That works only for super flex.
I don't disagree with you in the fact that quarterbacks score, but what I want to mention here when it comes to quarterbacks is that extra quarterback, especially at the low end of the rung. So if, say, for example, you're drafting the JJ McCarthy or Aaron Rodgers, and this is not so much the case with Jacoby Brissett this past year, or the Deshaun Watson or the Mac Joneses. Yes, they have when they're on the field, they do have a higher chance to score a boatload of points. But on average, what we're seeing, at least last year too, is that we're seeing like 20 points. If one of these quarterbacks is gonna go off, they're gonna have, in order for them to be super relevant on your team, that last end quarterback, for whatever reason, is gonna have to pop off for like 26, 27 points. The likelihood that happens is minimal at best, right? But when we look at it from the perspective of, there is, looking at the outcomes, yes, the quarterbacks, since they're on the field the most, they do have the more likely outcome to hit that 20-point threshold and therefore are more useful to you. But also, there's the case to make, like you said, where you take 4 quarterbacks in this model, you're guaranteed at least 3 quarterbacks in a given year are going to get hurt. So that's another way to approach it, is that the more quarterbacks you have, the better. But also positionally, because you need more wide receivers and you need more running backs over the course of the season, it's probably better to invest some of that raw capital at the back end of the draft to be invested in that. So that's kind of what I'm looking at there. So Joe just left. I want to answer this last question here for you, family. Any chance you can analyze the top teams from 2025 in a stream to see what worked? Yeah. So what we'll do next Monday after the Super Bowl, family, on Monday, what I'll do, and I'll tell Joe this, what we'll do is we'll use this resource. This is a great resource. I don't know how many of you are up to it on here. I know Mick is, but this is a resource that I like. It was just produced. It's created by Patrick Donovan. Shout out Patrick Donovan, not affiliated with Underdog. But what it does is it allows you to see, how certain finals tournaments shook down. Okay. And obviously, the top prize getter here was Sherman. He was on a podcast. I believe he was either on, Pete Overzet's podcast, or Maddox, or I don't know if he was on Establish the Runs or not, or somebody else, but we can definitely take a look. And I do recommend taking a look at these, because you do have, as we have here with King placed 9th, I believe, in the big board, before, but here, we can look at it before we go off, is that this is the little board's finals from last year. You can see that this team, Tesla Shock, outscored 185. And what we're looking at here, right, is we're seeing a team, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 running backs. This is a team that just smacked the running backs. Like, you basically needed this grouping of running backs to win. A combination of a 20-point running back. Here, quarterbacks. 3 quarterbacks here, getting you to the promised land. But look at all these wide receivers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. So what Joe was saying, not bad. You come down here with Thammy. Thammy took 2. So it is a very likely scenario that you can end up, if you hit the right guys, that you can end up in the top finishing category. You look here, it's two quarterbacks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 running backs. You saw me take 8 just now. Wide receivers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 wide receivers and 2 tight ends. So there's so much here. Dead Derek Carr, right? Family, we were just talking about We were just talking about Derek Carr, right? He had a third quarterback, and that quarterback was dead. It's not a given J.J. McCarthy's going to play. It's not a given that Jacoby Brissett's going to play. It's not a given that Bryce Young's going to play the whole year. And he had 4 tight ends, right? One of them dead. So looking at that from that perspective, there's so much variance that you can apply. Where Matthew Stafford carried this team most of the year. Brock Purdy comes up in the back end of the season. Trey McBride, George Kittle. Let's say we go to the big board. All right, let's go to the big board here. And go down here. I believe King said that he placed 9th, so this should be his team. 3 quarterbacks. Look at all the rookies. R.J. Harvey, Tootin, Omarion, Jalen Wright, basically. You've got Luther Burden, Colston Loveland. But again, 2 tight ends. We come up to the guy who won. 3 quarterbacks with the dead Kyler Murray. And this is a team that had DJ Giddens, who did jack shit for most of the year. Kendre Miller. So the guys that you have to hit, you got to hit them, right? There's no doubt about that. You have to hit them. But again, 2 quarterbacks. Brock Purdy, Drake May, lights out. Lights out. This is a guy that won with their next best scoring, with 3 dead assets, basically. 3 dead assets at running back and 4 tight ends. So the variance that you need to be successful here is, I mean, it's so, and knowing when was this team drafted, who's to say, right? But again, that much that we know is true is that you can build a team so many different ways. You just always need the right things to hit for you. So if we take a look at the little board 2, which is right after the little board closed, we take a look at this. Should 2 rookie quarterbacks plus Brock, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 running backs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 wide receivers, Mike Williams, dead asset. And then Cole Kmet and Kyle Pitts didn't do anything, but Kyle Pitts got you there. Here, another example. Mason Rudolph. Everybody was projecting that maybe he was the Steelers starting quarterback, but Aaron Rodgers, dead. So if it's dead, why here's another variant, and we'll take a look at these more next week. So guys, we appreciate everybody watching. Like, follow, subscribe, because Stevenson had that monster week. I mean, if you look at Ramondre's, stat sheet from the week 17 and week 16, I believe it was. So if we go and we look at that stat sheet for Ramondre there, you're going to go to the 2025 game logs, and taking a look. Where was it? So he had that game. So the game against Miami. So 2 touchdowns on 131 yards. You kind of needed him in certain respects, right? You go over into Best Ball Mania like we had at the top with Sherman. And where you have Sherman here, Sherman absolutely had Ramondre. And if you had Derrick Henry, you probably were in a good situation, right? Borat here had Bijan. Still lost with Bijan. Had 2 quarterbacks, right? Because that's the Best Ball Mania. We go to the biggest board, which is the $100 contest. So, if you're in the biggest board, you're gonna have to really own up to it, where you have $100 ahead. Shadur with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 running backs. Taj Brooks protected by your Chase Brown here. A Tyler Higbee. Here's Goods. Goods placed in the top of the biggest board as well. Maneri. CHR. Had a Sam Darnold in there. And here's another 2 quarterback. Right? So all depending on how you're investing that capital. But we will be back lot of Olave because Olave had that great week too. So you look at Olave just in general, right? And you look at how Chris Olave's season went, and it's probably going to pop up. Anybody who has 100 receptions is probably going to be worth having on your team here. But you look at the back end of that season where this was important. This Jets game, right? Monster game. And to get there, you needed him to do well in this game, which he did. Right? And so all it takes, right? All it takes to really lose is that. So like if we go here, for example, and we go and we look at one of my teams, right? And I don't think I did a lot of little boards. But let me see. So I know I had a team in Best Ball Mania. I'm not quite sure. Right. So my highest Best Ball Mania team, right? We had Josh Allen, Bryce Young, and that team made it pretty damn far. But again, I hit on Taylor for the first half of the season, hit on Josh Allen, but look at all this garbage that didn't hit. Caleb didn't hit for most of the season because he was dead. Travion didn't hit. Brashard Smith didn't hit. I went far because of Puka, but look at all and Alec Pierce. But look at all this, the speculative picks that didn't work out. Right? Here we had this one placed really poorly. But look at why it placed poorly. Right? We have this Taj Brooks, nothing. Garendo, nothing. Scadaboo gets hurt mid-season. Kamara is trash. This is one of the ones that we drafted live on air, right? Westbrook Akine, we thought he could be something. Coker didn't end up producing. This was a one with a Jonnu, right? So anything can happen. And I fully expect certain teams to be better than others, right? But when we look at it and we say, hey, anything can happen, and it truly can. So next week on Monday, family, we will go through that BBMDB. You can go through it too. We can compare and project how different teams did and see, what was successful. But again, you have to have the players that hit week 15, week 16, week 17. You need to even want to sniff. If you've gotten past week 14, you need to have the exact right people to hit 15, 16, 17. And you also need to have that good pod luck. If you don't have pod luck, you're also going to be a little bit screwed. They kind of did turn out the lights on me, but I do still have my Christmas lights up. So, we're good. All right, guys, peace out. We'll check you later. We'll be on Monday, 3:45. We'll talk about BBDMB, and we'll see you next week. Have a good one.